Hi, my name is Laila Flemmings, and today I'll be presenting a film analysis on the play Raisin in the Sun. I found this play in an African American literature class where we had to read and analyze the play as well as the characters within it. I resonated deeply with it because the characters felt familiar with me, their struggles felt real, and I saw pieces of myself and the people around me within the younger family, which is the main characters in this film. This play was written by Lorraine Hansberry and inspired by the poem Harlem, written by the great Langston Hughes. It premiered on Broadway in 1959, and through this film, we answered the questions, what happens to a dream deferred through the characters within it. Through this play, we walk amongst the life of the younger family, a family of 5, and also a lower class black family living on the south side of Chicago. Each member has big dreams, but they face major obstacles such as systematic racism, poverty, and also sexism. The story shows how these barriers shape their opportunities and their choices and the relationships they have with one another. Socialization has played a big role in these 4 primal characters throughout the film. We see Mama, or known as Lena Younger, becomes the moral center of the family. She carries the values of faith, hope, and sacrifice, and she tries to pass those values down to her children. We see that Walter Lee Younger has been socialized to believe that a man's worth comes from being a provider. He struggles with grasping the state of his life because he feels that a man's worth comes from being the provider, and since he is not in the mental capacity or the economic state where he can be the provider, he's lashing out on the characters within the film, and also he's very angry with himself. Benita Younger has been socialized very differently than her brother. Unlike him, she questions tradition and she challenges norms, and she actively searches for her identity beyond the roles society assigns to women. We see that Ruth Younger, which is the wife of Walter Lee Younger, has been socialized into maintaining the home, keeping peace, and supporting her husband as a mother to their kid, Travis Younger, and as the wife to Walter Lee Younger. And we see throughout this film that sometimes, well, most of the time, she ends up putting the people in the house before herself. The best sociological theory that I think best explains this film is the conflict theory. The conflict theory argues that society is made up of groups competing over limited resources like money, power, and status. Now, within the Younger family, they're competing over money, most of all, between themselves and against the system that confines them. We see this when Big Walter, which is the dad of Walter Lee Younger and Benita Younger, and also the husband of Mama, or Lena Younger, when he dies, he gives his family his life insurance. Now, following his death, each person has a different dream for that money that they're awarded. And they clash because the resources are just not enough for everyone. Their conflict reflects the larger competition and inequality faced by Black families during this time. Social roles also shape how each character behaves. Walter Lee plays the role of the man of the house. He feels pressure to provide, make decisions, and lead the family. His frustration comes from not being able to fulfill that role. Mama, or known as Lena Younger, plays the role of the family matriarch, responsible for nurturing and protecting her family values following the death of her husband. Now we see that Ruth Younger becomes the doting wife, working hard to maintain peace and stability in the home even if it comes from sacrifices of her own dreams and her own life and desires. Gender roles is also a huge thing that appears in this story. We see that Walter Lee believes that masculinity equals money plus authority. His primal frustration in this film comes from this inability to achieve financial success, and he projects this insecurity onto women around him, especially Ruth, his wife, and his sister Benita. I think this reflects best in the quote where it says, "That is just what is wrong with colored women in this world. Don't understand about building their men up and making them feel like they somebody." This is what he says to his wife after an argument because she doesn't agree on some of the things he does, the way he acts sometimes, and the way he wants to spend his money following the death of his father. Now, Benita, she's personally my favorite character. Gender roles appear beneath the story as well. She challenges expectations that women should marry, support a man, and stay quiet and not use their brain. She wants to become a doctor and live her life on her own terms, pushing against traditional norms. But we see a lot of times in this story, society and people in her own household are barking down her neck and telling her, "No, you're so annoying. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing this and you're supposed to be doing that." And we see this when her brother tells her, "Get married and shut up." The concept or the theory, self-fulfilling prophecy, is best shown through Walter Lee Younger. Society constantly tells him that black men cannot succeed. Walter begins to internalize this idea, and acting out of fear desperation, he makes such a risky deal with the money that his mom gives him that comes from the life insurance. Not all of it, but a good majority of it she gives him. He tells his mom, "Sometimes it's just like I can see the future stretched out in front of me. Just plain as day. The future, Mama. Hanging over there at the edge of my days, just waiting for me." He believes his dreams are so close, but he just can't get them. He just can't grab it like he really wants to. So this is where he thinks that the money from his father is his only option as a black man in America. This leads to Walter Lee making a deal with his friend named Willie to open up a liquor store. He gives his cut, his friend Willie has his cut, they're gonna make this business boom together. But his friend runs off with the younger's financial money, and it leads to their ruin, they believe. So that means that the negative expectation became reality in that instance. Now, we see ethnocentrism is shown through George, Benita's love interest, who has a negative attitude towards African culture. Benita begins to love African culture. She wants to show African culture and express these roots, which were stolen from her through slavery a few generations or centuries ago. And he tells her the African culture is nothing but a bunch of raggedy A spirituals in grass huts, which is totally disrespectful for Benita, and she just hates that he says this because, as you can see, she just loves the African culture. She loves the style, she loves her hair, and she's just beginning to love this culture a lot throughout the film, and he says this to her. Now, we also see that the dramaturgical, I don't know how to pronounce it, perspective theory is also shown within Walter Lee. Now, I like when you said in the PowerPoints that he's not being fake, but no parent wants to show that they're struggling in front of their kid, especially a kid as young as Travis, his son, which is only an elementary school, primary school student. He's only about 10 years old. He shows his son that he's confident, that he's strong, that they're okay with the money, that they're financially stable. And he does this when he gives little Travis money for school. Even though they don't have it right now, he gives him this money to make his son seem that everything in his life is just doing perfectly fine. But Walter shows that he's not okay with this, that he's not the strong man he says he is, and that he's definitely struggling in life. He says, I'm 35 years old. I've been married 11 years, and I got a boy who sleeps in the living room. And his son doesn't even know that the living room is not supposed to be his bed, but he thinks everything's fine. And when a white man, which is Mr. Linder in this film, he's a home association owner, a home association man, and the Walter, the younger family, is trying to move out of their apartment complex into a new home in a white neighborhood. But he comes to them and he tells them, hey, I don't think this is the best idea for you guys. I just want my neighborhood to be ran the way it should be. And he kind of sugarcoats this, but he's telling them that they shouldn't be in this white neighborhood and that they're going to buy them out, that he's going to buy them out of the house they already put money down for. Now, Walter Lee has already spent the financial money that was given after his father's death on the liquor store, but it was taken, so they don't have it anymore. So he tells his family, oh, I'm just going to beg him. I'm just going to say, hey, Mr. White Man, can you please just give me this money? He's going to get down on his knees and sell his dignity. Something that his mother and his sister just know was not taught to them. And we see this in this picture right here. But when Mr. Linder, the white man, gets there, his son is sitting there watching him. And he switched everything up. He switches it up totally. And he says, we are a proud family. And we are going to live in this home, whether you like it or not. And I respect him for that. And his son respects him for that as well. Now, we see that family is the strongest agent of socialization in this film. Mama Younger teaches her family values like faith, dignity, and love, and perseverance. She teaches her children to hold on to hope, even when the world tries to limit them. Her influences shape Walter and Benita's beliefs about themselves and about life. Here's a quote where she says, there's always something left to love. Telling her kids, even if we're going through such hard times, and even if right now we're not getting along because of the way we disagree on how this money should be handled, we all should just continue loving each other because that's what's going to get us out of this. And she tells Walter Lee when he says that he's going to get down on his knees and beg the home association owner for the money, she says, we ain't never been that poor. We ain't never been that dead inside. Teaching him to have dignity, to restore his honor. Yeah, you made a mistake, but I taught you better than that. Religion is also another important agent of socialization. Mama's Christian values guide her family, morals, and decision. Her faith influences how she navigates hardships and how she encourages her children to stay grounded and compassionate. Her religious beliefs act as a moral compass during moments of conflict. I think she best reflects this in this quote where she says, what's the matter with you? You got no faith? You can't live in this world without some kind of faith. She has such a strong relationship with God, and she tries to preach this onto her children as well. Especially living as a Black woman during the Jim Crow era, God was something that got her through such a terrible time in life. Lastly, we see the concept resocialization in this film, which is clearly seen through Benita Younger, where she rejects white society, but she doesn't come to this conclusion through a forced method. She doesn't go into a mental facility. She learns this through cultural influences and through another love interest named Asagi, an African man from Nigeria. Benita dances with Nigerian music with him. She imitates traditional African dances. She tells her family she doesn't want to keep entertaining the assimilationist American culture, but she wants to connect with her African roots instead. And she wears an African robe. She expresses how these clothes make her feel more of herself. And she even stops flat ironing her hair and wears an afro throughout the rest of the film. Benita consciously works to re-socialize herself, and redefine what beauty, womanhood, and success means to her. Now, this film taught me that even if society tries to tell me what I am, tries to break me down, and even if my family makes me totally upset, love, strength, and family are what help us survive our hardest moments. I don't want anyone to define my path in life or define my future overall, and I want to keep being me, living the life that I want to, and like beneath the breakdown traditional and social norms against Black women like myself. These are my sources: the film, A Raisin in the Sun, and also our book that we use in this class of sociology. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed.